Hey Prof, what's up?
Well, chat as usual.
And I see there's a very pretty young lady next to you, so are we going to chat with her today?
Yeah, I believe they are called Gen Z.
Ooh, so we are going to get, I think, great inputs on, I'm hoping, a very, very interesting
Yeah, it
topic.
should be a change from the oldies that you've been looking at.
Well, I would like to agree happily, but no offense meant, but I think this is going to be a fab episode. So over to you.
Okay, we have with us Anjali Paru, who is a humanities champion. And after her 10th, she has chosen very specifically to get into humanities for the 11th, 12th, and beyond. So, what we are conversing about is basically her choices and the reasons for it. So, Anjali, welcome to the show, Chat
Hi.
Masala. This
Very
is a
happy.
special episode. And let's start off with what made you choose humanities in the first place.
This was like quite a big decision at the time. I always knew after 10th I have to sit and figure out what I want to do with my life. But it was very last minute decision in that sense, very gut feeling based
Yeah.
decision. And the thing especially is usually when you're good at something, like when you're really good at science or math, say it's like a granted that medicine, engineering or something
Yeah,
like that.
usually.
Usually. Like maths was my best subject in 10th as well.
Mhm.
But then I don't know, there was some gut feeling that told me that I had more of a passion for, social sciences and all of that. And
Were there any people who influenced you in this process?
I mean, most of my family is like in art related streams, either writing or filmmaking and literature, like Pratty and everyone else.
Okay.
So I never, I felt like ulta pressure to go into this rather than that. Uh, yeah, at school I was more pressure to go into the sciences because my teachers really wanted me to.
Mostly teachers push you in that direction.
Yeah, even now, like my math teacher, whenever I see him or whenever he talks about me to my other friends, he goes, talent
You
got
should have.
wasted.
Okay.
So, but I've enjoyed wasting my talent
But
over the
on
past few
okay,
years.
good. So on the other side, what scope do you think the humanities subjects have?
I think humanities has it's like humanities at its core. I think it's basically like people-oriented sciences, right?
Okay.
Compared to the natural sciences or the
Engineering, etc.
engineering or biology or everything. It's very at its core. It's about socialization and people, and so I feel like its scope is very broad in that sense because every field requires you to interact with people and it's this thing. It's not possible for you to be successful at anything without a base understanding, and I think humanities in general tries to understand human species as individuals, as groups, why we behave the way we behave and how we organize ourselves. And I think when there's in a world where I think it's really beautiful how people can come together for things and to understand that and to I feel like be a proper citizen. It's very important to have some knowledge.
So within humanities, what are the areas or subjects that
That I
are
work in.
offered?
There's a lot of subjects that are offered: sociology, political science, history, geography. There's psychology. A lot of subjects.
Okay.
But
Wide range.
wide range. But I'm sure there's a lot more. But the ones I've been exposed, like I've studied for the last 2 years, were sociology, political science, psychology.
So tell me, why do you think there exists this bias, at least in India, against humanities as a whole?
I mean, for me personally, I never had it or experienced it firsthand up until I came into the stream because my family is very open minded and all in that sense. But I think that there is this fake conception that humanities is easier or humanities is like you don't need to study.
A lighter
it's
subject.
Light, exactly, light lelo. But I think in general, maybe it's because in India there was all this there's this sure shot boom of engineering and these medical sciences. And
So the
in
careers are all set.
Yeah, in general, there's a job perspective, right, in India. It's like
Yeah.
what will get you into a earning position, and maybe humanities are not seen as whatever, as prosperous as whatever. But I think now that's changing with all these liberal arts programs, and in general, there's like a higher perception for.
Yeah, there are some of
humanities.
these newer universities like Flame and Ashoka
Mhm.
and a few others who have probably changed
Yeah, for sure.
that perspective.
I think, yeah, because humanities is very different in its approach. It is, obviously, it is subjective to some extent.
Mhm.
But I think the main misconception here is that even the humanities aren't natural sciences, they're still scientific in how they work. In the sense, the conclusions and the theories.
So
and
these two
studying are-
actually should be working
Definitely.
together,
Definitely.
is what you think.
I think the core principles like of sciences, of the rationality, of evidence, of all of that is like
Equally valid.
equally valid in humanities. Like my sociology teacher in any of our projects, she would not have it if each of our theories weren't backed
Sound.
up. If our samples, if the sample space for our questionnaire wasn't valid for the questions we were asking. So it is scientific in its own right. And I think just because it's different doesn't mean it's less than. It's just, it takes a different skill set and a different.
So it's just a bias which is not really valid.
I think it
according
comes
to
from a
you.
lack of understanding of what it is and a lack of this thing of.
Okay,
Yeah.
that's interesting. Okay, so have you ever regretted making this choice to go into humanities in spite of being good at science, maths, whatever?
Yeah, definitely. I was 2 months into my humanities 11th grade when I was like, Ma, did I mess up?
Okay.
But I think that was more of, like, I wish there were options for me to do both this and that in my school. But in terms of regretting it, I don't think I've regretted it because like, I've become a very different person because of studying these subjects. Like I always had an interest in politics and I always wanted to know what was happening. But I think the way I've started perceiving it and analyzing it and studying it, I've become more confident, I've become more this thing because humanities forces you to, it kind of forces you to separate your personal beliefs and your commonsensical beliefs about people from a scientific one. And so I think that's made me more rational and made me more this thing. And I've always, it's like I've become a lot more interested in debate and speaking and politics in general. Like I see politics now, I don't see it as a separation. I see it as a part and parcel of everyday life. You know,
Okay.
everything is politics. And for me, political science was the main subject. So, yeah. So I wouldn't say I regretted picking humanities, but I had
Okay.
moments of doubt, for sure.
That we all have at various points in life.
Yeah.
But last one final question. With all this hype about AI, artificial intelligence,
Right.
going around, what do you think is the link between the two, or what's the relationship between humanities and AI? How do they play out?
I think AI is definitely changing how humanities is studied and changing how much effort has to go in because again so much of your research and everything can be done through AI and so much of
Does it affect human creativity, for example?
creativity. I think AI is good at replicating existing forms of creativity. For example, I would like even I was recently at an MUN and I had a lot of co-workers who were using AI for their new like articles that they had to write and all of that. But the thing is, AI can only recreate creativity that it has seen before. It's not capable of producing something entirely new.
Original.
If you have the idea and you use AI to implement it, even then it will be based off of its perception
Okay.
of that idea.
So it has its limitations, you're
Yeah,
saying.
definitely. I think it can come up with ideas, but it's never going to feel humanized because it's always going to be a reproduction of something that's been done.
So
before.
there is scope for NI or natural intelligence,
Yeah.
you're saying.
I think NI is the honesty element, right? And
Yeah.
authenticity is always going to be recognizable, even however human AI gets.
Okay, so I think that was an illuminating set of observations
I
about
don't
humanities and the non-human aspects of maybe artificial or computers or whatever. So thank you very much for this episode. We enjoyed having you.
Very fun. Thanks so much. Where did our cameraman go?
Tacticians and now extra editing work for me.